All right, so I'm out here at the smaller farm that I hunt, kind of moving around some scrapes. And what I mean by that is I hung rope scrapes here 2 years ago, based on some information that I found from some pretty reliable sources, and they have not worked. Mostly, in my opinion, because of where they're located, one. And two, the bucks here just don't scrape a lot. There used to be horses here. This will be the first year without horses, so we'll see if that changes it. But last year, I found 2 scrapes, the first 2 scrapes that I've actually found that I didn't open myself. And it's 40 acres. I've been over the whole place. So I do have some really good rut action here. There is a bedding area back here behind me on the neighbor, a bedding area on the other neighbor, and they actually just kind of cross through here. We do have a food plot here. We're going to plant more food next year, but this year we're just not. So anyway, the does like to come through here. There's lots of does just for such a small piece of property. So that's really good. Some of the bucks come through here. But behind me, there's a crossing. So right here, this crossing where they jump the fence to go in the bedding. There's 3 or 4 down this fence row, all the way back to the top. But I have this overhanging branch, and I'm gonna hang a vine in it. Not a rope, a vine. I have found at the other farm that I hunt at that a vine is hanging out in the middle of the open. Kind of grabs their attention a little bit more, and they chew on it and they scrape under it. Like I open the scrape, and they always open it before I get back to it to do it. So I'm gonna hang a vine right here in this cedar and see if I can't tell the landowner not to cut it down. All right, so it's quick and painless. That grapevine hanging, it's hanging pretty low. I mean, you can see it's not very far from the ground. So does can sniff under it. That crossing's right there. You got a stand over there. So I like this a lot. We'll see if it makes a difference. I'm gonna put a camera on it. And, all you can do is try and figure it out. Right? Fingers crossed. That's scrape vine number 1. All right. So the other part of this experiment is this rope. So I hung this rope here, I don't know, 3 years ago maybe, in this oak plot. And I've had bucks walk by and does walk by and sniff it, but they've never really done anything. The ground, you can see, is pretty wrapped up below it, which is kind of, I don't run a camera here, actually, probably in a year. So they could have used it last year. The last time I did, the coyotes were pulling on it like before. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this down, I'm gonna replace it with a vine, and see if maybe this will help. I know the deer cross through here. The food plot's right through there. This is white oaks. There's 3 or 4 white oaks in here, 3 or 4 red oaks in here. A bunch of hickories, and it's just, they came through and mulched a bunch of cedars out of here. Deer come through here and eat acorns, and they cross through here all the time. I get pictures of the mature bucks that run this place in here all the time when I have a camera here. But they've never really used this rope scrape. So I'm gonna replace it with a vine and see if that makes a difference. Alright, so fairly uncomplicated. Just replace the rope with a vine. I hung it really low because, as leaves go, it'll pick up. But we'll see. I'm going to put a camera on it and see what happens. Taking a break. It's hot, muggy. I'm out here moving vine scrapes around and kind of doing that because I've read and heard a lot about how deer prefer grapevine, if you've got it, over like a rope scrape, right? Or an oak branch or something. And I don't really know. I've never had much success with mock scrapes, except for one, and it's actually a vine. I hung it 3 years ago just because I didn't have any more rope. I hung a grapevine in a spot, and the deer are just killing it every year. They make a scrape under it, they open it before I can go in and open it. They chew on the end of it. It's low enough that the fawns every year can get it. Does use it, bucks use it. So, you know, in that mindset, I started thinking about, you know, I'm not doing these things because I'm smart, right? I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm doing them because I've read and heard people say them. So right here behind me, I have a vine scrape that I hung in place of a rope scrape. And I hung the rope scrape here 3 years ago because someone that I trust, that kills big deer, that does so regularly, I trust their land management techniques, talked about rope scrapes and how good they are and how much they use them, and use them for everything. So I'm kind of doing is this the right place for a rope scrape, or is it the rope that they don't like in the vine? Because I've gotten almost no pictures of deer actually using it as a scrape. They sniff it when they walk by because it's hanging in the middle of nowhere. I've had some coyotes grab it and play with it like a toy. But I do that stuff because I trust the person that I heard the information from. And I'm not saying that because it's a rope scrape, it's not working, that they're wrong. I think this is probably not the right location for it. But we're testing out some theories, right? And we're doing that because we trust the people that we read. And it brought me back to something I read recently in 1 Peter. So in 1 Peter 2, Peter's talking about submit yourselves to authority. All right, and that's coming from Peter, right? Peter's very brazen. You're talking about the guy who cut off the ear of someone while he was surrounded by Roman soldiers. Peter's always the first to speak up and leader of the church, and kind of very aggressive. But he's telling us to submit to authority. And through a commentary, I found out why. Peter learned that from Jesus in Matthew 17, where Jesus told Peter to go catch a fish, and it had in its mouth the coins for both Peter and Jesus' tax to Caesar and the Romans. And through that parable, and that's a very short paraphrase, but Jesus basically is telling Peter he pays the temple tax not because he has to, because he is Lord, he is God, he has the authority to not pay that temple tax, but he's paying the temple tax because he's submitting to the authorities to keep the peace. And so Peter tells us in 1 Peter that we need to submit to authorities through the Lord Jesus. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm not really submitting to these people who have these ideas of rope scrapes versus vine scrapes and things like that, but I'm learning from them because I can't really figure it out on my own, right? Just like we need to learn from Jesus and apostles, Peter, John, James, what we need to do to live our life according to how Jesus wants us to live. So spend time in the Word. It's good stuff. Start connecting the dots.